Morning. Today is Zayin Adar, which is the birthday and the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was born and passed away on the same day. He was 120 years old exactly when he passed. We're dedicating today's class to the birthday of Yerachmiel Endless, wishing him a happy success. Let's journey to a town called Liozna. In this town, there was a discussion. One Shabbos, a Yid by the name of Rabbi Hilo was visiting, and it was this week's portion of Tetzaveh, which was before Purim, and they were reading Shabbos Parshas Zocher, the section which talks about wiping out Amalek, and Hilo saw how another Yid by the name of Rabbi Zalman Zezmer was getting so enraged when he heard the reading of Amalek, and he was getting so angry, you could see on his face, he was beet red. Now, Hilo was a fine Jew. He was very, very learned. He was really working on himself. He was not a chassid. And he went over to this Zalman and he said, where in the world did you get such strong feelings against Amalek? You hate Amalek? For what? Where'd you get it from? It's been thousands of years ago. Now, of course, we know that Amalek were the ones that started with the Jewish people. They're the first ones that waged war against us after we left Mitzrayim for no reason. There wasn't monetary gain. There wasn't any type of territorial dispute. There wasn't any type of jealousy, if you will, about something practical. It was simple hate against the Jewish people. But still, it was thousands of years ago. And you're hearing about it now, and you're so angry, it bothers you so much.
It was before the second war.
Correct. And Rabbi Zalman told him, I got this in Liozna. I got this by the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, the author of the Tanya. I studied with him, and I'm his chassid, and that's how I got this appreciation for what Amalek really is, not appreciation in a positive way, but that's why you see that feeling when we read about Amalek. So Reb Hillel traveled to Liozna. He went to the Alter Rebbe, and after some time, he became a great, great chassid. He later, after the Alter Rebbe's passing, became a chassid of the Mittel Rebbe, Alter Rebbe's son, and later of his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek. He was a chassid of 3 Rebbes in each generation. And it's written about him that he was only a half a chassid because the other half of him was a Rebbe. He was a very holy Yid, a big tzaddik. He has Sfarim that he wrote. Many, many Chabad songs, beautiful songs that we have, are from a Hillel Paritcher. He was appointed, I think, by the Mittel Rebbe to oversee the growth of the Hasidim and their self-development and work, and he really, really accomplished tremendous things. I say this, of course, because this Shabbos we're going to read Amalek, Parshas Zocher, about the story of Amalek, which is always read the Shabbos before Purim, because Purim, the story about Haman trying to destroy the Jewish people, Haman HaAgogi, is a descendant of Amalek. And being that on Purim we're going to stamp out Amalek, Haman, and we're going to, every time his name is mentioned with a title, we make noise and we stamp with our feet. Similarly, regarding Amalek, we want to wipe them out as well. And that's why it's read before Purim. We'll take questions soon. In Parshas Tetzaveh, which is the Parsha that we're going to learn this week, and we're learning, it continues the discussion about building the Mishkan, and particularly about the begodim of the Kohen, the garments that the Kohanim wore. When the Kohanim served in the Beis HaMikdash, they had to be dressed in a certain way. There were certain requirements, the 4 garments they had to wear. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, he had to have 8 garments. And among these was something called a tzitz. A tzitz was a plate that went on top, on his forehead. As the Torah says, it should be on Aaron's forehead. And through that, it brings an atonement for the Jewish people. Now, what is this plate? It said on it, Kodesh LaHashem. holy for Hashem. It was inscribed in this plate. The Kohen Gadol had to wear this when he was doing the Avodah. Now, the Gemara in Zvachim, Daf Peches Amud Beis, tells us, what's the point of this tzitz? What did it serve? What's this idea that it somehow atones for certain things? What's it actually atoning? What's the concept here? The Gemara says that it's mechaper, it atones for azus metzach. Azus metzach loosely will translate it as brazenness. When a person does an avera, when a person commits a sin, when a person transgresses, there's different ways of doing it. Don't get any ideas here, but let me share a few of them. A person makes a mistake, he's embarrassed, he has a certain weakness. It doesn't make it okay. He still committed the crime, but it's done with somewhat of shame. But then you have a person that says, I don't care. I'm doing it because I feel like it. He has chutzpah. Okay, he's very brazen about what he's about to accomplish. And he does it carelessly. So that's a different level of an avera. That's a deeper transgression because of the attitude that it's done with. There was once a yid who took his son to the mikvah for the first time. And when he took him to the hot mikvah, he came in and he was saying, ooh, it was hard to get in. It was very hot. And after he got in, he said, this is geschmack. And the father said, this is exactly the opposite of what happens when you do an avera. When you go into the mikvah, you say, ooh, and then you say, this is so good. And afterwards you regret it. You say, ooh. It's the other way around. The concept is that there's a certain level of an avera where it's done with azus metzach. It's done with brazenness. I don't care. I'm doing it despite. I'm doing it regardless. I know better. I'm doing it. And the tzitz that the Kohen Gadol wore had that advantage that it was correcting, fixing, atoning for this type of an avera. That's what the Gemara says. Now, how is it connected? How is the tzitz connected to brazenness? And why does this particularly atone for the brazenness? Obviously, it's on the forehead, and in Hebrew, the word brazenness, azus metzach, is the forehead. You're coming like proudly and saying, I'm doing this anyways. But still, what's this concept? Why does the Kohen Gadol wearing a plate on his forehead somehow atone for a yid that's doing an avera, committing a sin, in a way that's brazen, with extra chutzpah, not caring about why the fact that it's wrong. By the way, welcome all those that are watching online. You're welcome to ask questions, comment. We'll try to address them. Of course, like, share, spread this videos around, subscribe. So let's talk a little bit about the other parsha that we're going to read on Shabbos, and that is Parsha Zachar. And by understanding Amalek a little bit, we'll understand the concept of the tzitz and what's that about. So, first of all, why do we even care about Amalek? Amalek did something 2,500, more than that, thousands of years ago, over 3,000 years ago. Now, we don't know today who Amalek is. People speculate, people say, but Sancherev, over 2,500 years ago, he mixed up and blended all of the nations. So the nation, besides the Jewish people, the nation is the way we know it. Who was Amalek? He took a chunk of that nation and he forcibly moved them to a different area. And they had to live there and grow their families there. He took another group, let's say the Egyptians, and moved them to a different part of the world. And everyone was mixed up like one big cholent. And therefore, after a few generations, the assimilation was so strong, you can't trace back and say, oh, Amalek, they're the ones living in Germany, or they're the ones living in Afghanistan. You don't have that ability because it's not the same nation. They're all mixed up. So we're getting up in Shul, and we're going to read about the mitzvah to wipe out Amalek, right? Obliterate them. And we don't know who they are. You can't practically fulfill this mitzvah today. It's still a mitzvah, and every mitzvah is eternal. It doesn't expire, but it's not something practical that we could do. And even if we did know who they were, we don't have the permission and the right to go and wipe out a nation. Talking about times of the temple, an enemy of the Jewish people, how to deal with them. You can't just say, oh, that's from Amalek, let's kill him. There's no such law. It's forbidden. And you look at the words when Torah describes Amalek, It says, Ki yod al kes ka. Okay? The hand of Hashem, we'll say on the chair of Hashem. Now, a chair in Hebrew, for those that know, it's kisei. Kos is a broken word. It's missing half the word. Want to say chair, you say kisei. What's kos? Also, ka, which refers to Hashem, is only half of his name. There's 4 letters to Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So Chazal explained to us that Torah uses this in reference to Amalek to teach us that Hashem's chair, as long as Amalek is around, the klipa, the impurity, the evil element of Amalek is so powerful that Hashem's chair is incomplete as long as they're around. His name is incomplete as long as they're around. And the question is, how is that even possible? Hashem's chair is impacted by some bad guy, some nation. His name is cut off because of a wicked person. How is it even possible? We're talking about Hashem, his chair, his name. What does that mean? So let's look at what Amalek did. Torah tells us that Amalek came to wage a war against the Jewish people. 3 words. Baderech beitzeichem mimitzrayim. A person has a journey. And the journey consists of leaving Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, as we know, we spoke about it multiple times, is the idea of boundaries and limitations on a person. It's holding us back. At least it's trying to stop us from doing the right thing. And going out of Mitzrayim represents breaking free from those things that hold us back. The parts of life that tie us down, that don't let us be who we really are. Don't let us express our connection to Hashem. Don't let us do what our soul wants. It's a journey. The journey is leaving Egypt, which represents impurity, which represents the opposite of holiness, physical dirt, leaving that and going to Eretz Yisrael, the land, as it's called, Eretz Zavas Chalav Udvash, the land that flows milk and honey. And that's our journey. We got to go from point A, which is evil and impurity, leave that and go to point B. Now, when Torah refers to Eretz Yisrael as the land that flows with milk and honey, what's honey represents? Sweetness. It's the sweetness of Kedusha. It's the sweetness of holiness. That when a person is on their journey, the goal is to have a geschmack in ruchnius, to have an enjoyment and appreciation, a sweetness and spirituality. Learning should be enjoyed. A simcha shel mitzvah. You do a mitzvah not begrudgingly because you have no choice, and somebody told you that if you do it, if you don't do it, you'll end up in Gehenna, or there'll be some kind of punishment. But you're happy to do the mitzvah. It's connecting you to Hashem. In Hebrew, the word mitzvah is from the lashon tzavsa. Tzavsa in Aramaic means connecting. Mitzvah by definition is a connection to Hashem. So the journey that we're taking, leaving Mitzrayim, is leaving impurity and coming to a place of holiness, a place where you enjoy. There's a metikos, there's a sweetness, and there's a simcha of the mitzvah. The problem with this journey is that there's something called baderech. You're on the way. You're not there yet. You left Mitzrayim, but you don't have the geschmack yet. You don't have the sweetness and the pleasure necessarily in all your mitzvahs that you do. You're baderech. And baderech, the Gemara says that kol ascholes kashes, all beginnings are tough. Anytime you try something new, it's difficult. A new endeavor is hard. It's hard to stick to it. It's hard to get used to it. It's hard to make it there. So we know where we have to go. We know where we're leaving. We're leaving impurity to get to a holy place. However, the process and the way, the baderech, is very dangerous. That's the most vulnerable time. That's the riskiest. You may not make it there. You may mess up. And the difficulty is, will you endure and make it until it's eretz zavas chalav udvash, till it's sweet and enjoyable? And it's not easy. And the problem is Amalek came right then. That's where when Amalek came, at the most difficult time for the Jewish people in that journey, while we're still traveling, we're not there yet, he came then and attacked us. Now let's understand their method by understanding Amalek, looking at the word of Amalek. Amalek is miloshin melika, a bird. And the way they did melika, it's detaching the head from the rest of the body. It's a form of slaughtering, which works only in the Beis HaMikdash, in the temple, the Mishkan, and only for birds. The Kohen would take the top of his nail and press into the neck of the bird And that way he would perform the shchita, the ritual slaughtering. Correct. It's not a shchita. We're just using a loose term here. But he's detaching, he's bending, he's breaking. Melika means you detach the head from the body. You separate the top from the bottom. And that's what Amalek does. They separate spiritually your head from the rest of your body. Now, what are they trying to do? They're trying to get a yid who knows intellectually something is right. You understand that's the way you're supposed to be behaving. You decided you're going to do that. That's what you want. But your emotions and your actions are not there yet. You don't have the enjoyment there yet. You're on your way. You're baderech. You know where you're headed. You know the goal. You know the destination. But you're not there. You're on the way. And Amalek comes and says, I'm going to break that. I'm going to detach your head from your body. I'm not going to argue with you and say it's not the right thing to do. Intellectually, you're right. And you know that you should do it. But it's not going to allow the head to impact the rest of the body and actually come about into fruition. In a healthy situation, your head tells you it's good for you, and your mind, your heart, therefore wants it, and your body does it. Not the other way around, where a person wants something very much and he rationalizes it. Or he enjoys something, it looks good, and therefore he decides to convince himself why it's okay. The head explains to you why it's correct, and then it goes down to emotions to action. The nation of Amalek and the enemy, which is represented by Amalek, represents an endeavor to stop that, to disconnect the Jews' value system and what we know in our mind from reaching down into the rest of us, into the rest of our body. Now, Amalek was not stupid. They were wicked, they were evil, but they were not stupid. And they understood a lot of things about spirituality and a lot about godliness. And they recognized, like the rest of the world at that time, that the Yidden are untouchable. That Hashem took us out of Egypt, that we're the chosen ones, that we're going to go into Eretz Yisrael, to the land of Israel. They knew that. And despite everything that they knew, they said, we're doing it anyways. That's called brazen. That's called chutzpah. They had azus. They came and they said, we don't care. So what? Doesn't make sense. We're doing it anyways. And that's what Amalek does. Amalek tells a person, I'm not arguing with you that you shouldn't, that it's incorrect. I'm not arguing with you that Hashem is right and sinning is wrong. Do it anyways. Very often, you have a conviction. You know that it's wrong. But you do it anyways. That's Amalek. He didn't convince you that it's not a problem. You know it's a problem. But he is telling you to do it anyways. That's Amalek. He's separating the head, what you know, from the actions, from doing it. And that's why Hashem's name is not complete as long as Amalek's around. What does it mean, Hashem's name? Yud Kei Vav Kei. There's 4 letters to Hashem's name. The Yud and the Hey represent Chochmah and Bina, which is the intellectual part, how it translates into the world. Not that Hashem is intellectual and so on, but the name represents intellectual levels. And Vav Kei represents very actionable and emotional and already playing itself out in reality. From like in a person, from the intellect to the feelings and the actions. And because Amalek separates these two, it's not complete. It's left in Yud Kei. It's left in intellectual levels. I get it. I understand it, but I'm not going to fulfill it. Because Amalek is helping me just be brazen and just do what you want, even though you know that it's wrong. And his share is not complete. What's a kisei? A kisei allows a person to lower themselves down and sit. It's the process of going from there, lower. You're standing upright and now you're sitting down. That represents bringing down the concept that you understand. Amalek is doing is it's breaking that flow. The share is incomplete. It's not doing its job. The share would represent you settled. You took the concept and you brought it into your day-to-day. And that's why it's not correct. That's why it's not, the share is not complete. The name is not complete because it's not coming from our intellect into our actions. And this is, by the way, a very, very common issue, not just some kind of remote concept, where a person understands it, he gets it, he knows what's right and he knows what's wrong, but it doesn't impact his doing it. He has azos and he does it anyways. That was Amalek. He knows his creator, but he does it anyways. So what's the solution? How do we deal with this? The solution is the tzitz. this plate that was on the Kohen Gadol's forehead, that is the antidote to this. Because a head is made up of two parts. You have in the head very refined parts of the body, of the mind. And they're very, very sensitive. And if Chas v'Shalom, heaven forbid, something happens to them, it could destroy the person if he even survives it. Then there's the outer part of the head. It's called the skull. It's very hard. It's there to protect. It could handle a bang, a knock, something. Not going to destroy the inside. That's why it's there. It's a shell. It's protecting the person. Part of Hashem's wonders in the creating of the body. We have to recognize that there's a part of us, we said our head gets it, we have to protect that. We have to protect it with a brazenness. The way to respond to Amalek is to have a chutzpah in a stubborn way, where we say, I'm not doing it because it's wrong, period. And don't allow any types of explanations or desires or temptations pull you. You have to stand strong and say, yeah, maybe there's other ways to go about it. I don't care, I'm doing this, and that's it. I mean, a person has that level of azos metzach in a positive way, where his skull, which is protecting his head, because remember, in his head, he knows what's right. Amalek wants to cut that head off and not let it come to the rest of the body, to the emotions and to the actions. And the skull means I'm protecting this, I'm holding it strong. So when the Kohen Gadol put the tzitz on his head, when the Gemara in Zvachim tells us it atones for azos metzach, it's giving us the solution. Protect that head. Use that skull to protect what you know as right. And don't let other temptations, other tactics of Amalek to say, do it anyways. Don't let it be separated from the rest of the body. It's illogical stubbornness, where you know it's right, and even though there are arguments and counter arguments, you're not letting that get in the way. That's the tzitz. And that's how we deal with our spiritual Amalek. That's how we deal with the challenges when we're baderech, we're on the way, and we're not there yet. We don't have the sweetness in Kedusha yet. We're not so safe. We're not settled. But we know something, and we stand strong with that. So next time someone says you're in action, you're stubborn, maybe it's not such a bad thing. Maybe it has a lot of good qualities to it. So it's beautiful to see when you have the Parsha of the week, which is Tetzaveh, and you have Parsha Zachar, and you have Purim, and it comes together in a very practical way, living with the times, which is the times of the Parsha, what we're learning. So may we all be successful, may we all be successful in overcoming the Amalek within ourselves, anything that cools us down from the excitement in serving Hashem. Be stubborn about it, and don't give in.
Amen.
Sure. Questions?
Amalek